Hello, my crafty peeps. It's Cheyenne from PIXIECrafter.com. It's another Scrapbook Saturday. So I've got a 12 by 12 layout for you. We're going to be making our own ombre paper. It's going to be so much fun. So let's go over what we're going to need to make this layout. We're going to need a 12 by 12 piece of very vanilla cardstock. I've also pulled out some soft sky and some basic black to mat our photos. I'm using two 4 by 6 photos today. You're also going to need a little extra like scrap piece of very vanilla too. I'm going to be using the background stamp from the Graceful Garden stamp set. This is a gorgeous set and I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough, really. It's wonderful. There will be heat embossing because that makes everything better, at least in my opinion. I hope you agree because you are watching my channel. So we're going to need our heat tool, our embossing buddy, Versamark ink pad, and some clear Stampin' Emboss powder. For ink colors today, I'm going to use some Calypso Coral with the sponge brayer. You're also going to need your crumb cake and a bit of a Stampin' sponge. I grabbed one of the 3 by 4 cards from the Memories and More Petal Garden card pack. These are wonderful to add to your cards, your scrapbooks, and I thought this sentiment was good. It fit the color scheme and it fit the theme of the photos that I'll be scrapbooking today. I also am going to be showing you how to make some pretty flowers with the Pansy Punch. For adhesives, we're going to be using our Snail Stampin' Dimensionals and the Tombow liquid glue. Also go ahead and pull out that triple banner punch, your Stampin' Right basic black marker, and those glitter enamel dots that are just wonderful. Wonderful. So glad they're in the new catalog. All right, let's get started. These are the photos that I'm going to be scrapbooking today. They're from our last Disney trip, and I was really missing my mama, as you do from time to time, and these were some really good memories and they were really fun and we were just like being goofy. So I thought, yeah, this is what I've got to do today. This is going to make me happy. So I'm taking those photos and using my snail adhesive to adhere them to a piece of basic black, and I'm doing a very, very thin little mat around it, and I'm going to do the same thing on the soft sky. So I'm going to adhere them down. I'm going to leave a little bit more of a mat from the soft sky, and I really feel like that soft sky, it really plays in with the sky and the watercolors. So these photos were taken at Epcot, hence the Spaceship Earth in the background of one, and downtown Disney. There's a gorgeous area at downtown Disney that's just, you know, it's water and it's happy and I just love it. It's my happy place. Now let's work on our background. So I've got a protective silicone mat and I am using that background stamp to just stamp all over that with Versamark. I did use Embossing Buddy all over this 12 by 12 sheet in the beginning, and it is very vanilla, not Whisper White, so that's going to be a fun little thing to play with. So I'm not being specific, I'm being random. I kind of want it to be a little bit organic. I'm not worrying too much about the center of the cardstock because I know my photos are going to be in the center of them. Then I'm just going to dump that clear embossing powder, well, sprinkle dump, all over. This is another reason for that silicone sheet. Anything that slips down behind it, I can go ahead and, you know, dump it off back into the container without having to lose too much of the powder. So I'm moving it around, making sure it's getting all over everything, and I'm going to save that extra. You will be amazed at how far your embossing powders will go. You'll have them forever. And then go ahead and heat emboss your entire 12 by 12 sheet. It's going to take some time. It's a lot of surface to cover. So here's some tips. Watch where your fingers are. Don't burn them. Watch your other materials. There's going to be a heat tool heating them up for a very long time. Don't melt your surfaces or your tools. That would be very sad. and have patience. You know, make sure you're getting it all heated up. You will see it change a little bit. You can't see it too much on the screen, but it does get this shiny look to it. So that's kind of the secret with the clear embossing. When it goes shiny and it doesn't have that kind of powdery textured look, then you know you're good. It's very easy to overheat your embossing powder too, and that will just basically melt it into your cardstock. And I mean, it's a technique, it'll work, but it won't have that raised feeling to it. It doesn't matter too much in a scrapbooking page, but on a card it's nice to have that extra feel and dimension, that shadow to it. I did say it was going to take a while to get all of this heat embossed, but it's worth it. It's worth it, I promise. For the next step, it makes it just pop, pop. All right, so there we go. We've got it all embossed. Finally, I'm making sure there's no extra powder. Now we're going to do our ombre background. We're going to work with our Stampin' Brayer and our Calypso Coral. You can choose any color you want. That's the gorgeous thing about making your own stuff. Pick the colors that you want. Now, there is a bit of a learning curve with the Stampin' Brayer. Make sure that you're lifting up the brayer each time you're running it across so you can get the ink all over that entire round sponge, okay? And then you're just going to work it back and forth, back and forth. Alter the pressure. So when you want it to be really, really dark, you're going to push down a little harder. But then as you get to the edge, lift up a little bit. This is going to help you to get that nice blend. Practice on like some paper that you don't really care about. Like get some copy paper, some printer paper, and just, you know, practice with your blends. It's not going to be quite the same, but if you can get a blend on copy paper, then blending on Stampin' Up paper isn't going to be that difficult. The key to the ombre is to really just build up the layers lightly. Go back and forth. You notice that I'm going, you know, in one direction, then I'll come back in the other direction, just so that I can make sure it's a nice, even blend. Make sure on the deeper, darker section that you're really getting a good saturation too. That's going to make a real big difference. And keep in mind too that as your ink is kind of drying down, it's also settling up into that the cardstock. So it's kind of sinking into it. So just because it's what you're seeing now doesn't mean that's what it's going to end up being. It's gonna soften a little bit over time. Speaking of time, go ahead and take your time to get this right. Like this is going to be a show piece. This is kind of like the main piece of your scrapbook layout. I'm then taking some Craft White Reinker. Now this is my secret to a perfect ombre. I'm spraying, or well, not spraying, I'm dropping it onto my mat and I'm inking up my brayer. This way I'm not getting my Stampin' Right ink pad all, you know, messy and icky, and I'm doing the same thing but on the lighter side. I then decide that I'm going to want to cut this down because I want some very vanilla to show through at the end. So I'm cutting 1/4 of an inch off of all 4 sides just so it's nice and even. Now, I know it's not looking like anything much right now. It's cool, it's fun, but keep in mind this is a background layering piece. So I've got some Whisper White. I don't think I mentioned that in the beginning. So you're going to need some Whisper White, a 12 by 12 piece, to mat this on. I'm just using my snail adhesive to go ahead and get that adhered down. Then I'm deciding which way I'm wanting my photo to go. And I decide that I want the darker color at the top and the lighter color at the bottom. And then I had a brilliant moment of realizing that let's take some of those strips that I cut off of the edge and we're going to put the darker one on the light side and the light one on the dark side, and it's just really going to add just a little bit of something. So I used my Tombow liquid glue to go ahead and adhere those down. And I think that, like, even if I just left it like this, we've got a good layout. It's awesome. But we're going to add more. Because I don't plan on having a whole lot going on this layout, I want to make sure that I get some dimensions. So I'm using my Stampin' Dimensionals to pop up my photo mat. Use the entire sheet of your Stampin' Dimensionals, even the outside edges. It's all the same material. It's just not cut in that nice octagon little shape. Save yourself some money and use everything. Next, I'm going to decide where I'm going to want that little card. And I realized that, you know what? It needs something. I can't just have it as it is. And I realized there's a lot of white space around it. So I was just going to cut it with my paper trimmer and call it a day. But then I realized, you know what? I really want to cut this out using my stitch shape framelits. I love the stitch shape framelits. If you have a big shot and dies, I recommend the stitch shape framelits. You can use them on everything. And I do feel like the Big Shot is so worth the money. You can cut out your stamped images, you can emboss. It's just, there's a lot of things that you can do with it. It's worth it. I have a Big Shot, a Cuttlebug, and a Cricut. I reach for my Big Shot a lot. I use my Cricut a lot for my sticker making and Disney stuff. They're just good tools to have to add to your art and craft space. Now let's get to making those flowers. So I'm going to cut out a whole bunch of pansies with the Pansy Punch from the Soft Blue and the Very Vanilla. I think I ended up cutting out 6, maybe 7 from each. And at first I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to make these the 3D paper roses. And then I realized I'm putting this in a scrapbook page. That's not going to work. That's too much dimension. If I was going to make this a shadow box, it would be perfect. But not right now. Not for the scrapbook. So first step after the Pansy Punch, we are going to ink up the edges with our crumb cake. So I've got my little sponge wedge, and I'm just going to ink around the edges of all of these pansies. This is really going to add some age, some dimension, some vintageness. I kind of feel like the Petal Garden Suite, it needs a little bit of vintage fun going on. If you wanted to, you could use the same colors. Like for the soft sky, you could use a soft sky to ink around the edges if you wanted to. But again, I wanted that vintagey feel. And even just inking the edges, you can see how it kind of brings them to life a little bit. Oh, after we ink up all of the edges, we're going to start to kind of break down the paper fiber a little bit, make them a little bit more three-dimensional. So I've got an old mouse pad there, and I've got one of my jelly roll pens. I think that the tops of these are perfect for this technique, especially for this size flower. So I've just got them turned upside down. I'm pushing down on them just to kind of make the paper curl up and bend a little bit, kind of making petals. And then you almost want it to kind of start to cup up over the pen a little bit. And then you can flip it over and you can flatten out that center bit. Then all you really need to do is like add a glitter dot or something to the center and adhere them on, and ta-da, you've got some nice flowers. But we're going to do more. And you can almost see how I have them stacked up. Like if I were to go ahead and adhere all those down in that nice cup, like that's a whole nother flower there that we could use. Just be careful you're not pushing too hard on all of these, because it is paper, it will rip, and depending on the type of paper that you're using, some are more fragile than others. You can even spray it with some water if you feel you need a little extra help. Alright, so now it's time. We're going to take and cut a slit between one of the petals down to the middle, and we're going to glue those two petals together. This is going to make more of a cone shape, and you can see I've got my clothespin there. It really just, it helps to hold it together while it's being glued, so I don't have to actually hold it together. And we're going to do that on a few, and then we're going to take a couple and we're going to actually cut out a petal, and this is going to just make a smaller little cone shape, and we're going to glue those together as well, petal to petal. And here is where I lost some footage. So there's a couple steps missing. So you see here, I'm just trimming off the base of the cone there a little bit, and I'm adhering it onto one of the flowers that we didn't cut. So that's basically what I did with all of them. If you would like a more in-depth example, tutorial on how I made these flowers, then go ahead and leave a comment and I will do that if enough of you request it. Let's be honest, I'll probably make it anyway. Then I always like to put some sort of rhinestone pearl gem dot in the center of my flowers. I really feel it adds to it. So I've got the glitter enamel dots and I'm just popping those in the center. I've got some of the yellowy ones and it's just gorgeous. It's perfect. I'm adhering the flowers down with the Tombow liquid glue just in a nice organic way. I'm building some weight in that corner there. And you'll see that one very vanilla flower up in the upper left corner. It's going to travel kind of all over the page because I'm not quite happy with it. Now I've got some of the other glitter enamel dots. I'm picking different colors. So I've got some of the pink ones involved, some more of the yellow ones, some of the soft blue or the soft sky ones. Actually, I'm not sure if it is soft sky. Anyway, but yeah, I'm just kind of arranging those in just to kind of bring a little softness, a little, spreading out the eye a little. And every scrapbook page needs some journaling, so I've just got a scrap piece of very vanilla and I'm outlining it in black just to give it some weight, and then I'm going to go ahead and do my journaling, just keeping it simple and everything. It is really time for me to do my hair. That purple's really starting to wash out, but that's okay. I kind of like it that way. I also went ahead and added the date to this one because after a time, all the Disney trips, they do kind of, melt into each other. Actually, all of my days start to melt into each other because my memory is just not what it used to be. Now I'm trying to figure out where I want my journaling to be, and I realize, yes, I want it at the bottom. At the top, it's not quite right. So I put it on the bottom, I bring that flower down to the bottom, and I'm a lot happier with it, but I'm still feeling like it needs more. Now, because the Tombow glue is repositionable when it's dry, I went ahead and added some of my embossing buddy to make sure that it wasn't too sticky. And since I feel like, all right, it needs something more, I pulled out my drawer obits. These are just extras that I've got. Some of it are current products, some are discontinued. They're just extras that I have that I can pull out whenever I need a little something. I love that copper foil dragonfly from the Detailed Dragonflies Thinlits, and that's going to end up staying. I really feel like it accents everything so well. And I've got some of the petite petal punched flowers. I've got some old retired designer series paper that they're cut from, the Cupcakes and Carousel designer series paper from the Occasions catalog, one of the music sheets from one of last Christmas's designer series papers. I do have some of them punched out in vellum, and these are just, they're soft. They add just a little bit of something without being too much. I'm also adding some of the butterflies, the elegant butterfly and the bitty butterfly. These are both retired. I'm so sad because they are some of my favorite punches. If you have these, I'm so happy for you because they are truly wonderful. Like whenever you need something, you can just add one of those. So I take those off and I realize, okay, we need some more soft sky kind of brought in. So I found this little bit and it was embossed with the Seaside embossing folder, and so I used my banner punch to kind of pop that on, and I realized, you know what, all right, one side is okay, but the other side is just, it's too much, it's not working. So I actually take one of those and I'm going to use it as a banner up in the top left corner. More of a pennant really. And then it's time to go ahead and start adhering everything down. So I'm again using my Tombow liquid glue to get all of those bits and pieces in. I even toyed with like, hey, I've got these extra strips. Can these go on? No, they can't. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere down all of those little extra bits of retired products. I'm sorry, but I also want to show you guys that if you love something, buy it. Don't let it slip through your hands because you can use it all the time. It's okay. It's yours to use as you want, whenever, wherever. I promise I'm not going to break into a Shakira song right now, but I really kind of want to. So go ahead, get all of your bits and pieces together, and then finally, eventually, you're going to decide, okay, this is enough. We're good. We're good. And then you will have a beautiful, wonderful piece of art, really, because that's what scrapbooking is. It's art. You are recording your memories, your history, and you're creating art all at the same time, and it's wonderful. And so now that is it for today's tutorial. I hope this inspires you to print out your pictures and have some fun with different techniques. Get your heat embossing done. Use that sponge brayer and just have fun. It's your art. Make it what you want it to be. That's the beauty of it. And that is it for today's tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. Feel free to leave me comments. I love getting your feedback. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye!
Want to see more? Here's a couple videos that might interest you. And check out my website and blog for a full list of the products I used, as well as more project ideas and inspiration. You can also shop my online Stampin' Up! Store and my Etsy shop from PIXIECrafter.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos.